Well, welcome back to Watercolor Studio 42, and today I'm doing another landscape kind of down towards Texas way. It's a painting from a calendar picture that I have here, photograph of the Rio Grande River, and it's kind of meandering through Big Bend National Park in Texas. So, like I was telling some friends of mine, I've been to Texas, but not only for just a transfer to another flight heading out to Arizona one time. So I haven't spent an awful lot of time in Texas. I'm going to do this sky. This is sort of like a sunset coming in from left to right and across the Rio Grande River here. I kind of like the idea of it because the river kind of has like a little S curve to it, and it kind of runs a little bit diagonal. So it works out pretty good for the composition of the picture. So we'll start off with the sky. Put a sort of an orangey kind of sky. I'm going to probably try to be a little bit brighter with the sky than it is in the picture. Right down here, let's put a little bit of that gamboge yellow in there and to perk it up a bit. The thing with watercolor, you put the color on it, it looks bright, but then when it dries out, it's a lot lighter when you look at it the next day. So sometimes you put the color in kind of bright and going across here, just a band of sky right up in there. And what I normally do is I start the sky and then I let the sky dry a bit before I do the kind of the mesas going across. And then so I get a nice clean cut line. And then while I'm waiting for the sky to dry, I'm going to work on the foreground down below. So I kind of start at the top, work on the bottom, and then come back up to the top again and do the hills there. So down here in the foreground, we're going to have some rocks in here. One thing about the Southwest, you take, for example, New Mexico and Texas and so forth. The terrain, kind of like it can be like a more open desert, but it's a lot of vegetation, so they call it a botanical desert because of all the plants. This particular picture has a lot of boulders and rocks, like in the foreground. So we'll do some of that. There's another little band. I was talking about the vegetation. There's another little band. I'm going to make that sort of a little bit of a background yellow. And that kind of runs down into here. Goes right off over into there. And the base color is going to be a little bit orangey yellow, but I'm going to put some green, darker color right into that. I'm going to try to make that look a little bit more colorful than it is in the picture. Let's see if we can work some more green into this yellow. Right across through here. There's kind of some plants in through here. This sort of orangey color. Probably drop some little specks of whatever into that. Not right now, it's kind of wet, so I'm going to let it set up a little bit more. Okay, this weekend, by the way, coming up is the Winterfest Saturday. Put in a little promotion about that. It's an afternoon, I guess, type of thing. And I'll be over at the Attleboro Museum. I got a little spot inside that I'll have some of my paintings set up over there. So apparently the weather's supposed to be halfway decent. It's a winter fest without the snow, I guess, because I don't think there's too much of a chance of snow being in the forecast by this Saturday. So there you go. Now there's some greenery up in here too, some plants. We'll put some of that in. I'm using a big brush. I always start off with a bigger brush so that I can lay a lot of color in without having to change brushes. But with a big brush, you can do a lot more with it. Along with this greenery, there's also some rocks, so I'm going to put some of those in. And I'll probably have to kind of do a little work with my piece of plastic that I used to kind of scratch the rocks to create some texture. Now the rocks here in the picture, of course, they're picking up some sunlight, but I'm going to make them a little bit on the browner side. There's one big boulder right up in this corner. Some other rocks in here. It's sort of a grayish color also. I'll start off with some brown and work some of these rocks into here. A little bit along this edge. There's an awful lot of texture in this particular photograph, so I'm not going to be able to probably capture every little fussy little detail, but nevertheless, we'll get something in here. This is a little bit on the foreground. Let's toss a little bit of gray, Payne's gray. Put that in there, kind of around the base of these rocks and boulders, just to give it a little bit more of a kind of a contrast because of the way the light's hitting the surface of the rocks, and then underneath there's always a little bit of a darker shadow in places, so we'll just put a little bit of that in. Now, give that a rest for a second. Use a piece of plastic, cut up credit card, and I use one, I guess. I don't usually. Now, see, what I'm doing now is just pushing some of that paint around that I dropped in with a brush. And I'm trying to bring out some highlight on the rocks. Sometimes you have to kind of manipulate the piece of plastic here a little bit and bring in some of the highlight of the rocks, especially where on the top where the sunlight's coming in, hitting them on the surface. Let's make this a little bit lighter over here. This one's a little bit lighter off this way. That's okay. Looks all right. Sometimes you can't spend an awful lot of time getting too fussy with it. Just put it in. Sometimes you're better off not to try to get too fussy with it. Yeah, these are some boulders that are up here, up above, and what we're doing is, in this picture, you're kind of looking down. There's some, in this lower area, there's a lot of vegetation and bushes and shrubs, I guess. And then right over here in the corner, there's a nice large boulder there. Show that, bring that a little bit lighter. There you go, something like that. And along the edges here is just going to be a lot of brush and so forth down below. So we get some of that in. Now, while I'm at it, I'm going to just add a little bit of more vegetation down here in the foreground, in front. Just kind of dabble around, just break it up with a little bit of texture. I'm not going to spend an awful lot of time getting fussy with it. We'll just make it look like it's more like plants and so forth. Look something like this. Now this down below, it's going to be more of a solid color. And we get to make it a little darker. in the picture, it looks like it's a very deep colored brown, but I'm going to try to keep it a little bit lighter than the picture here, so it doesn't look too dark. Add a little bit of color in there too. This probably could use maybe a little bit more orange in here. We're going to drop some orange in some of these areas here, kind of perk it up a little bit, maybe. I think sometimes the water kind of as it settles in, I've got the board kind of flat, so the water's going to kind of settle, and hopefully it will form some little texture. Maybe. Let's see what I can do. Okay. Now the water's going to be coming in around the bend, and so I'm going to try to get some of that in. It's going to pick up a lot of the reflection of the sunlight off here. Now this is painting kind of fluid, and it's not, I can't get too fussy with it. I'd be spending all day trying to get all the shrubbery in here, but kind of more suggestive. We'll put a little bit of color on here. Over into the corner, that could be darker. The corners I don't worry about. I just make them a little bit kind of out of focus. And you don't have to give the corners too much attention. What we want to do is focus mostly at what we have in the out in this area, the upper part more. Let's see what else. Maybe another texture of a rock right in this corner. There you go. Take my card, see if I can push some of that paint around. Sometimes, like when you're doing something like this, you're pushing the paint around, and sometimes it forms like little water stains. And what I usually do is, if it looks okay, I kind of leave it in. Leave some of those stains. They sort of look like little shapes of plants and so forth. I'm going to let this dry for a while, because if I keep painting wet into wet, I'm only going to get smudgy and blurry, so I'm going to kind of give that a rest and do the maybe some of the mesas and so forth out near the top. Let's fill this in around here. This is pretty dark through here. It's kind of so far away you're not going to see an awful lot of detail. Just put some color back into that. It's really, the whole picture is very warm texture. I would say predominantly orange and some yellow and sort of beige color. There's a few little plants that grow out in this area. I don't know if I can push any of that paint around to give some of that effect of plants in there or not. I'm not sure. Doesn't show up too well right now. Okay, let's do a little bit of texture in over here. Give it a little bit more green. Like I said a couple of seconds ago, a minute ago or so, that you can't do all the actual texture. You just capture kind of some of it, because it would take forever to kind of do all of what's there. You have to just kind of make it a little bit more suggestive. Okay, let's do a little bit through here. Show some plants around the rocks. Let's push that out there. Push this little spot in here. Yeah. Like I said, it's a lot of texture, so you have to be more or less selective and kind of squint a lot and take a lot of detail out. Just try to just get the effect that, rocks being in the foreground. There you go. And I'm going to go a little bit darker down here. Right around through here, see if I can get some of that. You have to use a fairly large brush. You can't get too small. It takes forever with a little brush, so I have to kind of put a lot of this in with a bigger brush. It gets a little bit darker off here. And we're going to have the river, the Rio Grande cutting through there. We'll get to that in a second. Okay. I just clean up a little bit more of the texture of the rocks here. I don't want to spend too much time with it. There we go, something like that. Pull some of that out. Like I said, it's more suggestive than anything. You put a little bit more back in this later when it's drier. So a lot of little green shrubs and plants in here. A little bit more over in this area. Show some of that. Take out some of the little fussy stuff. They look pretty good over here. This side over here needs a little bit more work on that. Just put a little bit more detail in there. See, I'm always trying to, when I paint a lot of times, I'm trying to balance off certain areas. So the way of doing that is repeating the same textures and color and shapes of rocks and so forth, so that everything relates to something else in the picture. I kind of like the idea of putting a little bit more of a warmer texture in here too, so I may come back and just put a little bit more orange back into here. See what happens if I put some orange on some of these rocks here. It looks like the sunlight's hitting them. You don't want to overdo it, but just a little bit of that repeated color. Okay. Right down in here there's some plants that are sort of that color. And over here maybe a little bit more color. I don't want to make this look too much green. So this is kind of bright orange, so I'm just going to quiet that down a bit. In here, maybe over in here, add a little bit of brown into that. See what else we have. Yeah, kind of dance around a bit. The color. You get a little bit of the effect that we were trying for. This can be much darker up in there. I try to make it look more relaxed, if that's possible. There's a little bit more color up into here. I'll leave a little bit of some lighter spots here and there. And what I try to do is kind of make the rest of this similar to what I did on the right side. I make the left side look a little bit more what I did on the other part. I think this rock, I'm going to bring that up a little higher there. Okay, come along down through here. And we'll let this set in a bit And then I'm going to work on the middle area, and this is going to be the Rio Grande, not the Grand, I'm thinking of the Grand Canyon here, but this is supposed to be the river. A lot of strong orange coming across here, right in through there, and the river comes around the bend. I got to come in through here, and then it goes off over in this direction. And the river's really not orange, but it's just a reflection of the way the sunset or the sunrise, whatever it might be. I guess more of a sunset. I'll put a little bit of that in here. It kind of gets a little bit lighter through here, this middle area. The river kind of goes on an angle. That's why I turn the board sometimes to get that around the corner. Get this out here and whatnot. There's a little bit of a light area right around here. I'm going to leave some of that white of the paper in here. Get this to touch in here, because it's in the picture. It's just the way the land is lighter. Sometimes I leave a little specks of light in my watercolor. There's a little bit of a island or strip of grass in this area here. I suppose I could put that in, add something to this little area. And then now when we come back in this way, it's going to get a little bit darker again. I always have to consider, you know, I'm trying to balance one area against another. So this is going to come into here. This is dark in this corner. So now I got to come across this way. Put something in through there. There's some little bands of color. Really quite dark. And then see where it's still wet, it gets blurry, so I'm going to just pull this back in here a little bit, take some of that out. It's got a little bit too heavy here. This is going to be right along the edge of the water. This is going to be the water in through this area, but it's kind of running at an angle, at least the way that we're looking at it. It can be a lot lighter down through here. Okay, this is going to have a band of orange, but some orange in there. See if I can get some of that color back up into here. Well, the paper's wet, so you can mix these colors on the surface. Get something like that. There's something over here. See if I can get some of that back in there. There you go. This is going to be a little bit more contrasting here. You got a nice pretty spot of color right around this area here. It's very, very kind of a nice little glow in through here, out into here, and then let's pull that across there. This is supposed to be the water. And I'm going to kind of take this color and just pull that right up into here. Pull that all in here. Yeah, take that, pull that out of there. And then we're going to make this a little bit, it's still wet, so it might be a little bit blurry. Got another darker band here, and put some more color back up in here. This picture, like I was saying, has a tremendous amount of texture. So you have all this to kind of try to work in. And have this kind of thin out over here. I'm kind of going back and forth a little bit the way it is. Now, in the foreground, this is getting a little bit, as it dries, it's getting a little bit less of. So we might have to come back in there just to add a little bit of stronger color as we go along. Okay. Let's see what else we have. This is going to be the mesa up in here is going to be quite a bit lighter. We'll put some color. I think I can work on that now. It's dry enough so I can kind of get some color back up into there. Right across here. Kind of break it up a little bit more. In the photograph, it's kind of level. But I'm just going to distort it just a little bit more across the top. Let's put some more orange in there. I'm going to try to get more of a contrast here between the hills. Something like that. Bring this over here. We're getting a lot of interesting filling it in. Let's finish this off here. Okay. Not going to see too much sky. Let's get that filled up and down through here. Of course, some of these mesas, you know, the color looks very warm color. A lot of, almost like some reds in there. Right across through here. And I push it up and down. Right across through here. A lot of color. You know, kind of go a little bit in the way the rocks seem to be worn away. That looks pretty good right there. And it's in here more. Okay, you get the idea how that works. And then I want to bring this, the hills here down into the darker color. Have a little bit of everything in there. This can be broken up right up into there. I'm going to bring it out to a point, pull this back into here. You get the idea how that works, and I think eventually, see how it's wet into wet. Well, there's a lot of vegetation that's out in this area too. So what I'm doing is kind of letting that darker color go up in that area. Kind of it's doing it by itself a little bit. Maybe it's getting too fuzzy, so might have to slow it down a bit. Now this is going to be a dark area right in through here also, on the other bank of the river. This can get quite a bit darker. Fill that all in. It is lighter through here. There's a band, I pull that through. Then there's another little band of light through here. I may have to work that back and forth a little bit to get the contrast. And then out in here, it gets very bright, nice bright color. Right through there, but also very strong. I'm referring to the photograph, what's happening, but there's a nice strong piece of light in there too. It could be a lot to do sometimes with maybe with the filter on the camera. Of course, we can afford to make that a little bit brighter than probably what it is in reality. Now, we're going to kind of come along through here, and there's a little bit of different shading in through here. If I can get that effect. I may have to use my plastic again to pull some of that texture down a little bit higher up into here, right straight across into here. We're going to have to put some shadow into that area too. A lot of brighter color right in through there. A strong reflection. There's a little beam of light that comes into this area right across through here. There's a suggestion of a little bit more there. This little peninsula, little island here, kind of disappeared, so I may have to leave it out or put it back, I guess, somehow. Now, what's happening here, this is starting to look dull. So before we finish up today, we're going to have to come back up in there and work on that a little bit more. I'm going to wiggle some of this orange out, put a little bit more up into this area. So this is supposed to be the water. Now, the edge right here is a little bit too soft, so I'm going to let that set a little bit in order to sort of get a little bit firmer. I think I can make that, I'm going to lift some of the paint out of there, make that lighter through there like that. And we'll just go off to the edge. Let's come in with a little bit of darker color here. It's sort of like more or less of a back and forth movement here. And in the foreground here, it's more of working around some of the rocks. And what I'm trying to do here is put in darker color to kind of balance the lighter colors up at the top. We're going to do a little bit more edging here. And this is all plants growing, so what you do is just take and pull some of that up into here, make it look like brush and bushes all along this edge here. Work that a little bit darker. Work just a little bit around the rocks here. Make some of these rocks jump out by putting some little wedges of dark color around them, like in here. I'm probably hiding a lot of color that might be in the painting. I know this edge here, right through here, that has to be darker. Let's see if I can put some of that in before I forget to do that. That's going to be darker here. And definitely darker over into this area. See how that will bring that out. But when you do that, you can't leave, if this edge, the bottom edge is sharper, you have to take the top here, in this case, the top in front of the rock, and just pull that back, wiggle that back up into there. Kind of let it go like that. There is sort of like a little, oh, that's a plant in there, that's why it's lighter. Okay, around here. I want to make this darker right in this area so that you see the shape of the rock better. Bring that right down and pull that back up. All of that's going to be all filled in darker. And what I'm trying to do now is just to bring out some of the contrast that's in the foreground and and show that we're standing up here looking down towards the Rio Grande River. Let's break this up a little bit through here. So it's a matter of, I guess, some soft edges and some sharp edges, and getting some darker, real darker color in certain areas, just to kind of contrast a lot of things happening. And like I said, I can't really spend a lot of time doing every rock, if you will, but I can do a few. Just kind of outline some of the boulders like that, leave some of those in the foreground. We still have to pull this back up here. It's all kind of bushes and plant life down in through here. We'll break this up on the edge here a little bit, like something like that. Okay. Now, I'm going to try to save that little bit of plant life in there, and just go around it with a little, push some contrast into that. Bring it back out. Get this whole area really dark through here, quite a bit darker. Sometimes when I paint, I forget to go back and finish what I'm trying to do. I want to get a contrast right in here because I want to show the shore line of the water. Bring that out. Again, it's just a matter of softening the edges in places and just pulling this back up into a darker. Okay, it's going to move the board a little bit just to make it easier to get that effect I'm looking for. So we fill this in through here. There you go, right to the edge. Yeah, see, well, I've left some of the lighter shades in here. It's supposed to be plants, and sometimes I get carried away and get too dark with that. I want this edge here to be sort of darker here, make it a little bit bumpier, and that comes out into here. Sometimes you have to give it several, little coats of paint before you get the contrast that you're looking for. And it's safer always to start a little bit light and work to the darker color. Let's see if I can just chop this up into here a little more. Sometimes, what happens is that you do a certain thing, and then all of a sudden, being water, it just settles in, and you have to kind of double back and straighten it out a little bit more. Yeah, go into that. See how you got to create some contrast in here with the trees and shrubs down below. That's why I'm kind of cutting up into it, just to make it look like it's all kind of plants growing down in this area. Cut into it. Now I want to show a little bit of the how the water works here. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. Let's get that out of there. I don't want that. Too much of that. Yeah. I'm going to cut out into here, into this area, and kind of narrow it out. And maybe kind of make this edge a little choppier. It's supposed to be all sort of some sort of vegetation growing in through there. See, I just kind of get the effect of some plants in there. Just some texture. And go right down through here. This needs to be a little bit right in the foreground here. I need to make that a little bit more of a contrast there. So I gotta go back up in there a little bit and pull this out, make it look like grass on that edge. Whoops. Might have to use a smaller brush to finish this off. See how you want to make that more of a contrast on the rocks. Okay, so to lift that out a little bit. Yeah. Along through here. Like I said, this picture has a tremendous amount of texture in it. But you have to kind of get used to kind of suggesting more things. And we'll see if that works okay. Maybe go like a cut into this, make it look more like a plant in there. Up into here, that rock kind of looks kind of funny. It's kind of dissolved a little bit. So I don't know if I can reactivate that. And see if I can scratch through that with my credit card and make it a little bit more noticeable. What it should be. Okay, let's round this off here. Paint it really down into here, kind of sort of blurred things out a bit. Okay, let's see, come through here. I'm just working down a little bit into this lower left corner. See if I can clean it up a bit. Yes, erase it a bit. This rock right here, that was supposed to be a rock in the corner. And what I'm going to do is just put some water back into that. And see if I can make that jump out again. Okay, down through here. This is where you get into just a little bit of dabbling around different places. Looks like I need a little bit more contrast down in there. Use some of my Payne's Gray along with sepia. It's a very dark color. See if I can break this up a little bit more through here. I don't know if I want to keep that in there or not. Now I jump around because I see certain things kind of, the water settling back into spots, and I have to kind of redo it again. Okay, just work just a little bit more in the foreground. See if you put a dark color, see how the rocks kind of jump out a little bit more. We kind of lost this in the corner. So what I've got to do is see if I can get some of that color back. Try to get some, maybe, I don't know, experiment a little bit. See if I can put another little shade of something else in there. Over here, just add a little bit of shading into it. Get some of that red from the sky back down into here. Like I said, through here, it looked kind of kind of muddy. Okay. I think this is too busy anyways to begin with. All right, now we'll give that a rest. Give this a rest. Let's come back, see what else I can do in a little while. I think I tried to wet this again. And I don't know if this card can pull some paint around or not. I'm trying to get that much lighter back, put some of that color back in, or less color back into here. Still doesn't look quite what I want. Let's see. I don't want to make it too busy. Sometimes you have to kind of rework it. At least I do, to get the amount of foreground texture. I don't like that color there right now, and I don't like really the shape of the rock either. It's a little bit overgrowing things. Get out of proportion somewhat. Well, we'll see if I can erase some of this through here. I want to see a lot less of that. Sort of, again, it's going into a corner, so I don't want to give the corners too much attention. Sometimes you have to kind of rework it a bit. Take more out than what you see there. Gets a little bit too busy. Shade this in over here. See what I'm quieting this down in the foreground because I want a focal point to be out there somewhere, right up in there where that bright color is, the way the sunlight's coming in. I don't know if I can get back to that or not. Okay, so talked about letting this go for a while. I don't know if I want to leave that speck in there or not. Take this out. Okay. Maybe we can get back and work on this a little bit later. Might probably have too much water in there right now. Yeah, just leave a couple little highlights in there. Probably should have left this lighter here. Let's see what else we can do to this. Oh, not do to it. I keep saying I'm going to leave this alone, but I tend to keep coming back to it. Take the big brush, take a clean towel, see if I can scrub some of that out. Kind of scratched in there quite a bit. I'm not crazy about this corner. Not enough something breaking it up. So might be better that I let it set and dry out and then go over it with something else. See, I don't like that in there. want to chop that up a little bit more. Maybe I can put some sort of a plant or something growing in there, which seems to be some flowers of some sort of plant there. I still don't like that corner. I like this side better. Let's see. Okay, let's give that a rest. I keep saying that. I keep saying, let's give it a rest, and I keep going back to it. Okay. Kind of took out some of that. I'm not crazy about that. I need more of a contrast. Let's go back to the water here. Now, what I want to do is make this edge, the bank here, darker right to up through here. And it kind of goes into that area. Talk about up in the, kind of the middle of the picture. Middle of the picture here, like that. And just keep it simple. I think I get carried away too much in the foreground. Okay, pull this out here. And then there's a little dark area back there. Let's see if I can get some of that in there. And something else up in here. Maybe I could push this up a little bit more. Now what I want to do is come along in here and probably keep that a little bit more grayer color. And I'm going to switch to another flat brush, but this one's going to be a little bit smaller. Instead of a full inch, this is a half an inch. And I'm just going to put some shadows in here. Whoops, not that way. That's not so good. Okay, let's see if this brush, I can get this thing to work right. I'll put some shadow down in here. Break this up in here. And that's kind of an interesting shape in there. See if I can get this push and pull a little bit into here. Soften some of that down. Over here, break this up a little bit. Alright. You can do that now because, see, I've let that dry. And whatever I do here will kind of hold its shape somewhat, hopefully. You come across over into here. Okay, you get the idea of that. Now, I'm going to bring this right down into this area here, but I want to make that a little bit darker. Let's get some color back into here and pull that right down into this area, and then kind of bump this across here a little bit. I want to get some other shading, some texture into this area here also. Break it up a little bit more. Right across through here. Push up into there a little bit. But I think up into there, we'll use more orange. Break that up a little, pull this down. Kind of work it across into here. So forth. Now, just to finish up, got a minute and a half left here. I'm going to see if I can get some of these areas a little bit shaded. A lot of shadow down in through here, across over here. This is a painting that has a tremendous amount of texture, and has reflection on the water. You can get some more orangey color right in there, and kind of goes by here. I kind of lost that little piece of land in there. I probably could put it back, but not while it's still wet. Over here a little bit more contrast across here. We'll push some of this dark color right up into here a bit. So anyways, this foreground needs some work. I might have to get back to it and just bring out a little bit more contrast around in through here, you know, just to break it up. Really do something very drastic. This looks kind of scratchy through here, so that's got to be kind of cleaned up a little bit more. But kind of gives you the idea. I think probably what I tried to do was get too fussy with it, spend too much time in one area, and maybe should have worked on something else. So I'm just going to take the tape off, and we're kind of running out of time, but I just wanted to show you what it looks like without the tape down. It's sort of a false mat around it, so that helps to bring it out a little bit. But this is a picture that probably you'd have to slow down a bit more and get some of that texture back into it. Just some contrast, you know, just a little bit more contrast. I think in the foreground it needs a lot of work right through here. Just kind of clean that up a little bit more, the edge there. Just break that up, and then you can get an idea what it probably looks like. But that's a fussy picture. It's kind of a little bit too busy in through here. So that's it for today, and so we'll see you next time. And so long to the Rio Grande here. The river really needs to be brought out a little bit more too. Give it a little bit more attention in there. Okay, soften the edges down here. Here we go. Needs a little bit more work. Kind of, it gets a little bit fussy. All right, so brushes up, and we'll see you next time. And in the meantime, I got to get this, do some work, finish it up.